The psychologist told us that precisely because of the few data that there was on children of my age, he could not give a definitive diagnosis, especially because in my case, there seemed to be no relationship between gender identity and sexuality. Because apparently, until that moment I only liked girls. But the time will come to deal with that issue. For now, the important thing is to help you define if, as I believe, we are really dealing with a gender identity issue, or if it is just a matter of development and curiosity that could be temporary. Could it be something like that? My dad asked. It is very unlikely, but since until now, she has never had the opportunity to experience life as a girl, it could happen that when she experiences it, it turns out not to be what she imagined. Especially for not matching gender identity with sexuality. Trying to understand. To experience? How? I asked to my dad. What is there to do? My dad asked the doctor. We need, if she wants, to give her the opportunity to live as a girl at least for a couple of weeks 100%. This includes being talked to, treated, and, above all, behaving like a girl during that period, so that later, having lived through it, she can know if she wants to be a boy again or if she wants to start a transition process. Addressing me. Would you like it? A combination of excitement and panic washed over me. I didn't know what to answer. What was my dad going to think? Was he going to keep loving me? I was about to say no. My dad intervened. Would you like to try that? It would only be a few days, and if you don't like it, after that you tell us and you go back to your life as a boy. Yes. I won't want to go back, I'm sure. I told him with tears in my eyes. Just another girl. Chapter 11. Don't get ahead of anything, said the psychologist. You have to plan it and there is no commitment. The important thing is that you know that you are part of this therapeutic process, and for this reason, no one is going to judge you if you want to continue with the transition or if you want to return to being a boy. You don't have to meet anyone but yourself. Do we agree? I nodded. I suggest that you give yourself time, organize and plan it well. You need to have everything ready, and it is important that you do not do it as a gradual change, but live as a normal boy until one day and the next day start your trial period as a girl. That will allow you to compare. Did you tell me you have a summer vacation planned? The psychologist asked my dad. Yes, at the end of the summer. 2 weeks. That could be a good option. You have a couple of months to plan those 2 weeks of vacation for her to live as a girl, and when you return, contact me to continue talking and see what's next. Are you okay with it? We both nodded. My dad got up and shook his hand. The psychologist turned to me. It is important that before that trip, you continue your normal activities and that you do everything possible to enjoy them. That is a decision you can make. And as always, you know that if you have a question or any situation you want to talk about, I am available 24/7. We left the office. I can't describe how I felt. I finally had the hope that I could be myself without hiding it and without guilt. At least without hiding it from my dad and with less guilt than usual. That was much more than I could have dreamed of. It was the first days of May, and my mom had kept my hair short, almost military throughout the year, but since I arrived with my dad, a little over a month before, I had let it grow. Even so, 5 or 6 weeks of growth was not enough, and what little I had grown was without any style. The trip my dad had planned for the summer was by plane to Los Angeles, CA. There, rent a car, spend a few days in the city, go to Disney, Knott's Berry Farm, and different museums in the city, go to San Diego one day, go back north to San Francisco, and from there to Yosemite National Park and back to Los Angeles to take the return flight 15 days later. When we began to see the maps to define how many nights in each hotel, how many hours of each road trip, and the activities in each city, I couldn't help but think that I was going to do all of this like Valeria. In accordance with the psychologist's instructions, during those months I continued my normal life as a boy, even returning to football at the end of the season. Already with the prospect of having a way out, of not having to live as a male forever, indeed I even enjoyed it. I tried to be the best on the team and scored a couple of touchdowns. At one of those games, my mom showed up with Adolf. As we won that game and I saw myself as a man with my shoulders and helmet on, she even showed some pride and congratulated me. It was the first time I saw her since the day my dad picked me up. Things were also better at school. Not only was school much more pleasant, but there were girls here and that alone made me feel better. I got along better with the girls than with the boys, but I also got along with them, all the time. As a group, we lived together and there was rarely a fight, but it was not only the environment. I began to see things with a more positive perspective and I realized that the psychologist was right. I could decide to enjoy my days or suffer them. It did not depend on the environment but on my decision. Anyway, each day had positive and negative aspects, only I saw them differently. I was happy and full of hope. My hair was still growing slowly, so the easy fix was to gel it up and comb it back. This is how it looked dressed up for school without having to cut it. Anyway, a few weeks later we had final exams and the school year ended. I was counting the days until our vacation. With a week to go before our trip, the longest part of my hair was down my neck to my back, but on the sides, it barely passed my ears by a couple of inches and it was all messy. One day I came home from football practice, all sweaty and tired, and my dad sent me to take a bath. When I came out of the bathroom, on the bed was a pale pink pleated short skirt and sleeveless polo neck top ensemble. To one side were pink panties and Converse sneakers. I could not believe it. Had the day finally come? But my dad had told me that I had to go through customs as a boy so they could check my passport and visa. I looked up and there he was, with a satisfied face. I called Serge to ask his permission. We need to go get your hair cut and fixed before we leave and I assumed you wouldn't want to go as a boy. Really? I asked. Do you want to try it? Yes. I ran to hug him with the skirt in my hand. I went into the bathroom and carefully put everything on. Of course, I hid the bulge that bothered me so much to see on my body. I saw myself in the mirror and I was fascinated by what I saw, but when I left, I felt very ashamed. My dad had never seen me like this, and I knew that my brother would be around. Although he was aware of everything we had agreed with the psychologist, he had never seen me either. I left the bathroom slowly and embarrassed, a little hunched over and not daring to look up. The first thing I heard was my brother's voice. Wow. You look so pretty. That comment made me raise my face, still embarrassed but with a big smile. Let me see, said my dad. I straightened up without knowing what to do. He approached me, took me by the hand, and raised my arm to make me turn. I guess my unconscious made me turn in the most feminine way possible, as I had learned with Sarah. How do you feel? Do you like it? Well, yes, I love it. You really look very good. And tomorrow have your hair done, you're going to look gorgeous. I turned red and hugged them both. Thank you. Do you want to go down to dinner like this before you change? My dad asked me. Can I? Yes, of course, just don't get it dirty because then we won't go to the hairdresser. We went down to have a simple dinner. I felt very strange to be there with my father and my brother dressed like that, but I felt very happy. While we were having dinner, my brother asked, "So, I imagine that now you are Marianne?" I smiled. "Yes, Valeria Marianne." "Valeria?" My dad asked. "Why Valeria?" "I don't know, I've been imagining that that's my name for a long time." "That is incredible," said my dad. "Why?" "Because I don't know if your mom ever told you, maybe you remember, he told my brother, but before you were born, they told us through the ultrasound that you were a girl, and the name we thought of for you, it was precisely Valeria." "Really?" I asked surprised. "No. She never said anything to me. Of course, said my brother. That's why I remember that when he was born I went with you to buy a crib. Yes, my dad said. Because as we expected girl, he was going to use your sister's, but when he was born, we had to go buy a new one. But how is it possible that you have chosen precisely that name? Seriously, your mom never told you about this? Never. I told him. This is the first time I hear that you thought I was going to be a girl. Well, after all, it seems that you were right, said my brother, pointing at how I looked and laughing. I felt like I was turning red while we all laughed. We finished dinner, I put on my pajamas, I left my clothes ready for the next day and we went to sleep. The next day after breakfast I put on the same set of blouse and skirt that I had tried on the night before and already feeling more secure and confident. We arrived at the beauty salon and my dad explained to the stylist that for a medical issue they had had to cut my hair a few months ago, and since then we had simply let it grow. He asked if it was possible to give me a hairstyle that would already look like a girl. The very kind stylist sat me down, washed my hair, looked at me from different angles, and checked how long it was on the top, sides, back and fringe, all as if analyzing. Finally she told me, "You are going to look very pretty." About 45 minutes later, she told me, "You are ready." She turned the chair facing the mirror and let me see myself. It was a cute bob cut that went just a couple of inches below my ears, but I absolutely loved it. It was the first time I had a really girlish hairstyle. The following week was basically preparing for the trip, packing, checking the reservations of all the hotels, the car rental, and the distances between one point and another to calculate travel times. For me, it was quite simple, because my suitcase was almost empty. I had to travel dressed as a boy to go through customs and check my passport and visa, but in a backpack, I had the only girl's outfit I had to change right there at the airport and really start the vacation being Valeria. Before arriving at the hotel, we had to stop to buy at least some of the clothes that I was going to need during the holidays and probably for the next few months. That's all for today. If you like this story, please like and subscribe.